What is up, guys? I have missed you so much. I've missed making videos so much. I have been traveling all over the freaking country the past couple of weeks, so I just have not had the time to dedicate to making videos, unfortunately. And I went to Aftershock last weekend. Got to reconnect with my girl Dorothy. Go check out that interview on Alternative Nation. I did do a written album review for Anthem of the Peaceful Army. That was also on Alternative Nation. Go check that out. I'm pretty proud of how that came out. Republic Records actually tweeted the link to the article with probably what would have been the weakest quote from the entire thing. So I don't know why they used that one. But Greta Van Fleet themselves actually retweeted it, so that was pretty cool. And there have been a lot of mixed reviews coming out lately. A couple people have asked me if I'm going to be doing Greta Van Fleet video review, because I feel like at this point it's just known that if something comes out with Greta Van Fleet, oh, Lauren's gonna talk about it. I received Anthem of the Peaceful Army sometime in September and had to listen to it on repeat. It has been a highly anticipated album. It is Greta Van Fleet's debut full length. Yes, it's a debut. Somebody said, why is she calling it a debut? Their other releases were just EPs. They had Black Smoke Rising last fall, and then they turned that into an 8-track EP by combining the first 4 songs they put out with another new 4 from The Fires. And they have literally blown up in the past year. Since I first saw them at Louder Than Life, which was October 1st, sometime around there, of 2017, they have opened for Guns N' Roses. They sell out shows everywhere in minutes. They've gone to Europe. They were invited personally by Sir Elton John to perform at his Oscars viewing party. I mean, you can't deny it. Whether you like them or not, they're successful, and we might as well get used to it. As you guys know, I am a big Greta Van Fleet defender. I have kind of been supporting them from the start, and I'm looking forward to where their sound branches out and where the rest of this journey takes them. So I'm along for the ride, and I'm hoping that a lot of you guys are too, and that you're not here just to laugh and point fingers and say that I'm an idiot for being a fan of them, because that's just rude. I don't think you're an idiot for who you're a fan of, even if I don't like them. And finally, we will start. When the Curtain Falls was actually the first song that was released from this album back in the summer. I did make a first reaction video to that. When I first heard that song, I thought it sounded a little bit too much like what they had already put out, so I was really hoping that the album would have a lot more to offer in store. And they delivered, honestly. I am happy with this album. So let's go track by track, and yeah, let's get started. Age of Man, the opener. Okay, I normally like an energetic start to an album. It's kind of, you know, when they told you back in high school that you had to have the first line of your papers was called the hook or the grabber. It's meant to spark the attention of the reader. I kind of look at the opener of an album as the same thing. If it doesn't immediately grab my attention, then it doesn't necessarily give me a good first impression. But I was open and I was giving it a chance, and I'm very glad I did, because there's a very slow and progressive and mysterious, quiet sounding build-up. You hear Josh come in and it's just kind of like quiet music in the background. And then after a couple of lines, you hear some acoustic strumming, and then the drums come in, and then there's a build-up. Literally, like, I was amazed. I thought it sounded so cool. The lyrics are so descriptive about the world and earth and everything. It creates a really visual element to go along with you listening, and I always think that that's important because it gets all your senses going, because you're visualizing as you're listening, and then you start feeling, and you kind of just get lost in it. And this song does exactly that. It's like an existential journey. I love it, and I just think the song is so extravagant, and it's 6 minutes long, but you don't even get bored as you're listening to it. By the end, I was hooked, and I was so excited for what the rest of the album was going to have to offer. Only time will tell. Take the ox to town and you can sell. Track 2 is The Cold Wind. Starts off with a really swampy and crisp guitar riff. Reminds me a lot of Southern rock, especially bands like Lynyrd Skynyrd and CCR. See here, you can see that we're drifting away from the Led Zeppelin a little bit, you know, because they do have more to offer than Led Zeppelin. And so what I liked about this song was that it has a very different tempo and vibe overall than the previous song. And this is only track 2. So they're already showing the versatility just in the first 2 songs, which sets a pretty good precedent that the rest of the album is going to have pretty good diverse sound. And yeah, I mean, I like this song. I think it's good. I don't personally think it's a highlight. It's not a song that I would, go back to and I'm like, oh my God, I have to listen to that again, like I would with The Age of Man. But the 2 songs together have a really good contrast for the beginning of the album, and I think it's really good at keeping your attention. So then you're like, okay, track 3. Track 3 is when the curtain falls, and I already touched on this a little bit and in an entire other video, so you can kind of get an idea how I feel about it from there. But again, I just thought that this song was very safe and predictable. It kind of sounded a little bit too much like what you would expect from them based on their previous releases, and it just didn't really feel daring and like they were going out on a limb enough. So I don't necessarily think that this should have been used as the first song, the first single to promote that there was going to be a record coming, but I do like the song. I think it's good. Don't get me wrong. Josh is wailing in his vocals. I think the guitar riff is really catchy. I wonder when we'll realize this is what we've got left. Now, Watching Over was also released prior to the rest of the album, and I don't think it should have been. I think it should have been left as a hidden gem that you would have to actually wait to get the album to hear, because it has such a different sound, again, than its predecessors do. It's slower, it's heavier, and it's more mysterious sounding. There's a lot more longer periods where there isn't a focus on the singing, so the instrumentation is highlighted, which is really good. And the song is the perfect length. It doesn't drag on, but it's not very short. It's long enough for it to get its message across, but not to bore you. So again, we have a crazy versatility in the sound of the songs. They just all so far sound so different, which is awesome because there's no blend. It's a nice, smooth run through where you're getting all these different kinds of moods. Okay, so I'll admit, Lover Leaver is probably my favorite on the album, along with Age of Man, and they are just 2 entirely different songs. I remember hearing them do this the very first time I heard them perform live, or saw them perform live, and I thought that it was so catchy and I was immediately hooked, and it took over a year for me to be able to hear a recorded version of it, but they really delivered. I think the lyrics are really poetic, but there's also a pretty good spotlight set on everyone. The bass and drums, the rhythm section overall, are very highlighted, they're very prominent, and even the guitar sounds louder than a lot of the other songs. The first chorus, there's an emphasis on Josh's vocals. It gets very quiet and it echoes, and it just sounds amazing. You can hear him having perfect control over his distortion and the rasp and the grit in his voice. And then there's also a prolonged guitar solo. So Jake gets his spotlight there, but then you hear Josh wailing in the distance, and it just puts a really good emphasis on the talents that they all have. So I think this song alone shows how much more seriously they took the songwriting aspect on this record than their previous ones. I think it's an awesome song, and I really like it. She's an Angel Straight from Hell. I mean, hello, that's totally gonna be one of my picture captions soon. You're the one. I think this song is so sweet. I love it. We're hearing them do it back in May when I saw Greta Van Fleet with Dorothy, and it reminded me a lot of Flower Power because it's acoustic and it's a ballad and it's a love song and whatever. But honestly, the first verse, when you hear Josh come in, his voice is almost unrecognizable because we're not really used to hearing him sing so cleanly and softly. And I mean, it was nice. It's very different than what we're used to. And then after a couple of lines, of course, he kind of goes up into that upper register. There's vocal harmonization in the chorus, so talk about bromance. And I don't know, I think it's such a nice sounding song, and it's catchy, and I know a lot of people aren't really too crazy about that. They don't seem to think it's a highlight, but I mean, Sam, you know, he gets his reign on the organs, and that's not something you hear a lot of bands doing, so I think that that's really cool.
Love isn't greed, it's a need that goes unspoken. Love doesn't leave when you fade away.
Now for this song, this is kind of where it starts to go a little bit down for me. The New Day, I kind of just, it's okay, but it has an element that just seems a little bit too innocent for me. I like that gritty, dirty rock and roll, and I think this song kind of sounds like it was meant to be the soundtrack for a kid's class or something like that. I don't know. I mean, I think it has a catchy rhythm and the instrumentation is really good, but it just seems a little bit immature. And Josh's voice, I don't like the way he uses his vocal delivery in the choruses because he kind of just sings so clean and so high that it sounds childish. So yeah, I mean, I don't think it's a bad song by any means, but it's definitely one that if I'm limited in car time to go somewhere, I'm probably gonna skip it. So this is Mountain of the Sun. Again, kind of just forgettable for me, not much of a highlight at all. I do really like that screechy, winding guitar lick that Jake is using throughout the song, and I think that sounds unique, but the song overall kind of just doesn't really seem to have as much to offer as the rest. These, I would say, are kind of like the weak spots on the album in my opinion, the songs that I would skip, like I said previously. And going off of that, what I still am seeing in a positive way, despite me not liking these songs as much, is they still sound so different. Brave New World is where the boys bring it back. Seriously, I can't even call this album a first half album because of Brave New World. I probably would if they had put Brave New World before The New Day, but because it is in the middle of the songs that I think are kind of the weaker spots, that I can't call it a first half album because Brave New World is an awesome sounding song. It's one of the longer ones on the record, it's heavier, it's a lot darker and more spooky sounding, and this is an area they haven't really explored a lot. A lot of their songs for the most part sound really upbeat and are about happy and positive things. That's kind of the whole hippie aspect vibe of everything. This is where things start to sound a lot darker. And again, more complex lyrics, more focus on the guitars. I just think that this song is awesome. So it breaks up the second half kind of not being as strong as the first one, in my opinion.
Knows the one thing that you seem to want to have most, and you chose.
Anthem, okay. This is the closer on the album because this was released before the album, along with a lot of the other songs. Anthem didn't really meet my expectations of what a song called Anthem would be. I think I was expecting it to be a lot more magnificent than it was, especially after listening to the whole album all the way through and hearing how fantastic Age of Man was. It would be nice if the album had ended on as strong of a point as it started on. Now again, don't think it's a bad song, I just don't think it stands out as much as the rest. And I think when you have a song with the name Anthem, it should kind of live up to that a little bit. Now I think Anthem is more about kind of what the message is behind the song, about peace and love and happiness and all that hippy-dippy stuff. And it just doesn't have as much to offer as some of the other songs do. So I did go really back and forth with this album. Overall, I think they did an exceptional job at making it sound very different all the way through. None of the songs really start to bleed into each other or sound the same whatsoever. And I definitely think that there are great songs that have a lot of replay value in them, but I do think there are also some songs that are kind of skip worthy. So I'm not gonna say there's negative, because I really don't think any of the songs are bad at all. And that's impressive for a band's debut full-length album. In this day and age, it's kind of like you're either a Greta Van Fleet fan or you're not. You love them or you hate them. There's not really people who are kind of in between. It's crazy. So whether you agree with Pitchfork or not, this band is just going to keep growing. But yeah, so let me know what you guys think of the album. Comment below. As always, keep sending me your questions for that Q&A that I mentioned in the past video. If you didn't watch the past video, you can skip to the end if you don't want to hear about my trip to Vegas, and that's where I talk about the Q&A. Keep on the lookout. Gonna give some updates about some Slash stuff that happened. Gonna give updates about Aftershock Festival. I already put a little montage there. You could check out my Instagram to see some of the other stuff. Check out Alternative Nation because there's other stuff there. And yeah, stay tuned and thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.